Hello, I'm Michelle Wallace and I'm with Central State University Extension. I'm here with Lou to learn more about medicinal plants and growing medicinal plants on his farm.
Really appreciate the opportunity to share what I've learned over the years about medicinal plants. There's a wide variety of shade crops that you can grow on a farm. And it's important to put every part of a farm to work. Most people have woodlots on their farm and they don't use them for fence posts anymore. A lot of them don't even cut wood, and some people don't hunt. So you're paying property taxes on an asset that is generating nothing for you in terms of revenue, and you still have to pay those property taxes. Unfortunately, a lot of that, those parcels in the state of Ohio are also overrun with honeysuckle. Fortunately, the USDA has an EQIP program through Natural Resources that will help fund the removal of honeysuckle from your property. They pay up to $550 an acre, which is kind of nice. The easiest way to do that, especially if you've got big honeysuckle, say 8-inch thick stems, is to run through with a forestry head and then hit it with a couple treatments of Roundup 2 weeks apart, only spraying between temps of 45 and 80 degrees. If you do that and successfully eradicate your honeysuckle, you now have a parcel that you can actually use instead of trying to claw your way through it. So how can you use that? Well, let's say that you've got kids that want to go to college, and I think most of us are in that situation. You can help them do that and help preserve some endangered and challenged native indigenous species by planting golden seal in the resulting parcel that you've cleared. Golden seal is a topical antibiotic that is the product of the plant's root after it's harvested. Golden seal grows in 70+% shade and is a community plant, which means that it will crowd out the other plants so you don't have to weed it, and who doesn't like not weeding? Now, the great thing about golden seal too is that it's a very profitable plant to grow. Golden seal roots are currently going for $70 a pound for certified organic roots. And of course, the primary market there is Germany. Big plus about golden seal, and circling back to talking about your kids like I mentioned, is your kids can work the property. You can get them off the video games, get them off the phone, and go out and enjoy some sunshine. Now, golden seal takes 4 years to grow. If you take your kids out and you say, here's 1/8 of an acre for you to plant in golden seal, and you plant it using rhizomes or golden seal seed, then they plant 1 acre, they plant 1/8 of an acre, the next year they plant another 1/8 of an acre, the next year they plant another 1/8 of an acre. The 4th year, let's say they're a senior, they get that last acre in. Well, now they've got a 1/2 acre of golden seal planted. The following year, you can start harvesting. Let's rephrase that. They can start harvesting. And the plus is that will pay for their college tuition, because it takes 4 years to raise golden seal. What a great opportunity to put your woodland to use, get rid of an invasive pest, which would be the honeysuckle, support a challenged indigenous medicinal plant, which is the golden seal, and fund your kids' college, all with stuff that you have available right now that may not be fully utilized. It's called putting idle assets to work. Now let's talk a little bit about how you can do that on a larger scale. One of the things that you need to consider is that there are pests for every type of plant that's being raised out there. When you're raising shade crops, they tend to have the same cluster of pests. Those are voles. Voles are rodents that live in the woods that like to eat roots, and medicinal plants basically you're raising the roots, so you don't want the voles eating your roots. The second big challenge is deer. And deer love to eat things like ginseng, and that's wonderful for the deer. They're very healthy deer after they eat the ginseng, but that doesn't do much for your crops. So you need to come up with a way to keep the deer out. The third challenge is wild turkeys. Wild turkeys like to scratch in the soil and dig up the roots, eat the tops and the roots. And the fourth major predator is humans. Unfortunately, courtesy of Appalachian outlaws, a lot of folks think that it's okay to go out and just snag and drag someone else's harvest that they put a lot of effort into establishing. So you need to watch out for those four particular pests. And I'm going to talk about different ways that you can do that next. When you're dealing with voles, there are two primary ways that people deal with voles. One is installing owl boxes. You can put owl boxes up on the tree. The owl boxes will host the owls, and they will be able to harvest the voles. That's pretty good because no labor on your part other than sticking the box up on the tree. Remember, it's got to be over 15 feet off the ground. Second thing is creating a vole bait station. You take white PVC pipe and create a T. You put a tin can over the top, drop some tomcat bait down there, alternate the two types of tomcats so the voles don't build up a resistance. The voles can come in through the bottom and eat the bait, but the holes are too small for squirrels to get in. And by attaching them firmly to a tree, that will prevent raccoons from shaking them loose and chugging down the tomcat and getting a Darwin Award, okay? We're not all fond of raccoons, but hey, the goal is to only deal with the pests that directly affect your crop. Third thing, with turkeys, the way to keep turkeys out is as you work your field, you're going to have sticks. That happens in the woods. Take the sticks, and after you've planted a section, toss the sticks onto that section. The turkeys are lazy. They don't want to dig through the sticks. They'll go find someplace easier to dig. Finally, we come up to deer. Deer, ultimately, the only way to keep them out is a deer fence. Behind me, you'll see a deer fence. I was very fortunate that the Farmer Veteran Coalition, which is a nonprofit group that helps veterans transition to becoming successful farmers, because it's easy to become an unsuccessful farmer, funded this project. There are very few grants out there for deer fences, and this is a great opportunity for folks who need a $2,500 to $5,000 Kickstarter grant. The Farmer Veteran Coalition also has a wide variety of mentorship programs, and they give away 5 Kubota tractors a year. Good outfit, I can't recommend them enough. When you're building a deer fence, you want to plan it very carefully in advance because you're probably building it in an awkward location. You can't just run along with a fencing machine and plunk stakes in the ground. You've got rolling hills, you've got trees, all kinds of clutter, plus ground clutter. So first of all, lay out your fence line with some 550 cord or string and identify what trees you can use as fence posts. That'll identify areas that you need to actually sink fence posts in. Now, what I sunk to support a 7-foot high deer fence was 11-foot fence posts. Now, an 11-foot fence post, you can't just stand on a ladder and drive it down with a fence post digger. You got to be up there on that ladder with a 5-pound hammer. It takes about 30 minutes to get each fence post in. Not a lot of fun. But I only had to use 39 fence posts to circle 3.5 acres because I very shrewdly picked out which trees to use for supporting the fence. Now, the idea behind a deer fence is that the deer fence reaches up to an unknown level for the deer. Okay, it's called a no-see-'em deer fence. They can't tell how high it is. Deer can jump 15 feet easy, but if they can't tell how high it is, they're less likely to do that. They don't know what's up there. Hey, let's go find someplace better to eat. Now, when you do your fence, you also need to flare it out on the bottom and put some garden staples in, 6-inch garden staples. That'll prevent rodents and rabbits and other critters from invading your area. Last item is, if you got a fence, you're going to have a gate. And ideally, you're going to have a lot of gates, because if you got gates, then you can drive straight through. You don't have to create an area inside your fence to turn around. Creating an area inside your fence to turn around means that you're losing valuable planting area. And that's your primary commodity that you're protecting here. So when you build a fence and build your gates, you can build a gate like this. Take a normal gate, attach some PVC pipe to it, string your deer fence across there, and now you're able to have a gate that is as tall as your fence. And if you go out to TSC, Rural King, Heritage, wherever, and try to buy a 7-foot tall gate, you'll get sticker shock, okay? This is a much more economically efficient way to do this. It takes a little bit of time, but time's what we got. The last big hazard that you have with raising shade crops is humans. Okay, a lot of people don't respect property, and a lot of people deliberately don't respect property lines. They go out of their way to look for what they think is easy money. Clearly mark your property for no trespassing. You can team up with Farm Bureau to get these free signs for the Farm Watch program. It's important to post signs about having cameras up. And for example, I have 33 cameras up here on this parcel. Some of the cameras watch clear, obvious avenues of approach, and other cameras watch the cameras, because it's difficult sometimes for a judge who doesn't deal with something like this on a regular basis to understand that stealing crops is a crime. I mean, yeah, it's a crime, but it's kind of like the attitude. But if you take a picture of them stealing your deer camera with a different deer camera, that's more tangible. That resonates with law enforcement better. Oh yeah, they paid money for that, as opposed to you just invested your time to plant the crop. So that is a good way to get around that. Another thing is, of course, don't advertise, publicize what you're doing. I'm probably violating that rule here, but I wanted to share a lot of the other information here with you. And it helps to have a tight community, an area where strangers are easily recognized and where neighbors are happy to help out and protect the community against outside intruders. There's a lot easier ways to make money than stealing ginseng, and I strongly encourage anybody who's watching this to share that with the rest of the folks that they know. All that being said, as an introduction, I'd love to take you inside here and show you a little bit more about what we do here in the woods.